Hello everyone, this is Aparna Shetty, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. So today I would like to continue with Module 4 of Object-Oriented Concepts. Okay, so in Module 4 we have already covered packages and interfaces in the previous video lectures. So in this video lecture we will be discussing about multi-threaded programming. Okay, so let us begin. Basically, okay, first let us understand what is a thread. Before going for multi-threaded programming, first let us clear our concepts about threads and processes. So in a thread-based multitasking environment, the thread is the smallest unit of dispatchable code. So in a multitasking environment, so first of all, what is a multitasking environment? Performing two or more tasks simultaneously. So in a multitasking environment, okay, that is a thread-based multitasking environment, the thread is the smallest unit of dispatchable code. Okay, so the basic unit of thread-based multitasking environment is thread. Multitasking threads require less overhead than multitasking processes. Now, first of all, what is the difference between a thread and a process? Okay, so first let us see what is the difference between a process and a thread. Process and a thread. Right? So you all know that a process is nothing but it is a program under execution, right? A program under execution is called as a process. Okay. Within a process, okay, this entire process can be split into parts. Okay, one entire process can be split into parts. Each part of that process can be executed by a thread. Okay, so a process is nothing but a program under execution. Okay, one process can be split into multiple parts. Each part of a process can be executed by a thread. So multi-threading means executing two or more threads simultaneously. Multi-processing means executing two or more processes simultaneously. So here they are telling multitasking threads require less overhead than multitasking processes. So let us see why multitasking threads require less overhead than multitasking processes. Processes are heavyweight tasks that requires their own separate address space. Okay, so they're telling that a process is a heavy-weighted task or it is a heavy-weighted entity, and this process requires its own separate address space or memory space. So each process that you are executing in your system requires its own separate address space. Inter-process communication is expensive and limited. So first we are seeing what about the process. Okay, first we are seeing about the details of a process. So processes are heavy-weighted tasks that requires their own separate address space, and also communication between processes, that is inter-process communication, is expensive and limited. Next point is context switching from one process to another is also costly. Okay, if you want to switch from one process to another process, it is costly. Okay, so this is about the process. Okay, so they are telling multitasking threads require less overhead than multitasking processes. Okay, because one thing is that processes are heavy weighted tasks that require their own separate address space. Inter-process communication is expensive and limited, and also context switching from one process to another is also costly. Okay, now let us see about threads. Okay, how threads help us with it. So, thread on the other end are lightweight entities. We saw that processes are heavy weighted entities because they require their own separate address space. Okay, whereas threads are called as lightweight entities. They share the same address space and cooperatively share the same heavy weighted process. Okay, that is why the thread is called as lightweight entities, because they share the same address space, and the threads are nothing but, I told you, parts of process are executed by a thread, correct? Each process is divided into part. Each part of that process is executed by a thread. So if I tell the threads share the same address space, can I tell that they share the same heavy weighted process, correct? So they share the address space that is assigned to this heavy weighted process. Next point is that inter-thread communication is inexpensive and context switching from one thread to the next is low cost. So this is the advantage of using thread from a process. Okay, one thing is that threads are light-weighted entities. Why threads are light-weighted entities? Because they share the same address space and cooperatively share the same heavy weighted process. That is one advantage of threads. One more advantage of thread is inter-thread communication is inexpensive. Okay, and the last advantage is switching from one thread to the next. That is called as context switching. Okay, switching from one thread to the next is also low cost. So these are the advantages of threads over processes. Hence we can say that multi-threading is has more advantages than multi-processing. Okay, so that is why they are telling multitasking threads require less overhead than multitasking processes. Okay, so I would like to repeat it again. See here, as we have already seen, I told you first what is a process. A process is nothing but a program under execution. Okay, so each process can be divided into multiple parts or multiple unit. Each unit or part of a process can be executed by a thread. Okay, so that was about a process and a thread. Okay, now executing two or more threads simultaneously is called as multi-threading. Executing two or more processes simultaneously is called as multi-processing. But which is more advantageous, multi-processing or multi-threading? Okay, they're saying that multi-threading is more advantageous than multi-processing because a thread is a lightweight entity, and also inter-process communication is not expensive in threads. Okay, and also context switching is less costly in threads compared to processes. Okay, so multi-threading is more advantageous than multi-processing. So that was the basic about threads and processes, multi-threading and multi-processing. Next, let us see about a Java thread model. Okay, so Java supports multi-threading. Okay, there are many programming languages that do not support multi-threading, but Java supports multi-threading. So let us begin how to use multi-threading in Java. So single-threaded systems use an approach called an event loop with polling. Okay, so before going for multi-threading, let us see what is the drawback of using single-threaded system. Okay, only one thread executing, not two or more threads simultaneously. Okay, so let us see the drawback of single-threaded system to understand what is the benefit of using multi-threaded system. So in single threaded system, they use an approach called as event loop with the polling. In this model, a single thread of control runs in an infinite loop, polling a single event queue to decide what to do next. So in a single threaded model, okay, a single thread of control runs in an infinite loop, okay, waiting in a single event queue to decide what to do next. Once this polling mechanism returns with, say, a signal that a network file is ready to be read. Okay, suppose now you have a thread waiting in a queue. Okay, it is running in an infinite loop, waiting in a queue. Okay, now suddenly when it is waiting in a queue, it gets a signal saying that a network file is ready to be read. Then the event loop dispatches. It dispatches from that event loop control to the appropriate event handler. Okay, in this case it is a file handler, right? Until this event handler returns, nothing else can happen in the system. So once the thread has been dispatched to the appropriate event handler, and the event handler performs certain task, and after performing the task, when it returns, until it returns, nothing else can happen in the system. You cannot perform any other task in the system. So this was about single threaded system. Okay, so in a single threaded system, you are using an approach called as event loop with polling. Okay, here a single thread of control runs in an infinite loop. Okay, and it is polling in a single event queue. That is, in an infinite loop, it is waiting inside a single event queue to decide or to get the signals about what that thread should perform next. Once this polling mechanism returns with, say, suppose that thread receives a signal that a network file is ready to be read. Suppose now this thread which is waiting in the queue, if it is receiving a signal saying that a network file is ready to be read, then the event loop dispatches from that event loop control, and it transfers the control to the appropriate event handler. Okay, so in the case of files, it is file handler, and until this event handler returns, nothing else can happen in the system. So here in the case of single threaded, that thread, until that thread completes its execution, okay, here it is waiting for the event handler to return. At that time, nothing else can happen in the system. So the system CPU will be left idle. So this wastes the CPU time. Okay. In general, in a single threaded environment, when a thread blocks because it is waiting for some resource, the entire program stops. Okay. So when a thread blocks, or that is suspends execution because it is waiting for some resource, in that case the entire program stops running. Okay, the process itself halts over there. Okay, in the previous example, a thread was given a signal notifying that a network file is ready. In that case, the resource is the file handler. So the file handler has to perform certain task. Correct? It has to read the file or fetch the file from the network. So till it performs that task and till that event handler returns, the CPU will be left idle. During that time, no other task can be performed. Okay, because it is waiting for some resource. In that case, the entire program stops. Okay, you cannot perform any useful task. Okay, so this was the problem with single threaded programs. When a thread blocks in a Java program, only the single thread that is blocked pauses, all other threads continue to run. Now, in Java, we support multi-threaded programming, correct? Java supports multi-threaded programming. So, if one thread blocks, what happens is other threads can continue to run. Whereas in single threaded programming, there is only one thread under execution. Okay, so if that thread blocks, the program itself stops. Whereas in Java, because of multi-threaded programming, one thread block, but the remaining threads can perform, or the remaining threads can run. I hope you understand, students. So first let us study the different states in a thread. Okay, so threads exist in several states. So a thread can be running. Okay, it can be ready to run as soon as it gets the CPU time. So one state of the thread is running. Okay, this is one state of the thread that is running. One more state of the thread is ready. Okay, a thread is said to be in a ready state. Okay, it is telling the CPU that it is ready to run. Okay, that it is ready to execute. So it can be ready to run as soon as it gets the CPU. So that is the ready state. First state, it is already been executed, or it is already being running in the CPU. Okay. Second state is the ready state. A running thread can be suspended. This is one more state of the CPU. A running thread can be suspended, right? Which temporarily suspends its activity. So when a thread is running, okay, something happens and a thread can be suspended. And this suspending of a thread is a temporary activity. Next, a suspended thread can be resumed, allowing it to pick up where it left off. So once the thread is suspended, again it can be resumed. Okay. So from where it can be resumed? From the point where it left off. Okay, from the point where it stopped executing, from that point only you can resume. A thread can be blocked when waiting for a resource. So when a thread is waiting for a resource, we can say that a thread is blocked. At any time, a thread can be terminated. Okay, which halts its execution immediately. Once terminated, a thread cannot be resumed. Okay, so due to some system error or due to some mistakes, the thread can be terminated also. Okay, which stops its execution immediately. And once it is terminated, it cannot be resumed back. If it is suspended, you can resume it. But if it is terminated, you cannot resume it back. Okay, so these were about the different states of the thread: running, ready, suspended, resumed, blocked, and finally terminated. Okay, these are the different states of the thread. Okay, first, a thread can be running when it is being executed by the CPU. Second state, ready state, that is, it is waiting for the CPU. Ready state means it is ready and it is waiting for the CPU to execute. Okay, next, a thread can suspend, okay, which is temporarily suspends its activity. So thread can be suspended, and a suspended thread can be resumed. Okay, it can be resumed from the point from where it left off. And next is, a thread can be blocked when waiting for a resource. So if it is waiting for some resource like file handler or any input output, any resource it is waiting, at that point it can be blocked. Files you can say, printer you can say. Okay, those are the different resources, different types of resources. When it is waiting, it is said to be blocked. At any time, a thread can be terminated. Terminated is, it will stop the execution immediately, and once it is terminated, it cannot be resumed back. Okay, that you cannot resume it back. You should start again the execution from the beginning itself. So these were about the different states of the thread. So this states of the thread is shown in this diagram here. Thread upon, first the thread will be created. Okay, first a thread can be created, correct? And once it is created, it will be put in the ready state, okay, telling the CPU that it is ready to execute. Okay, once the CPU becomes free, it will be dispatched by the CPU and it can be running. Okay, that it can be executed by the CPU, that is running state. Okay, and when running, the thread can be blocked. Okay, it can go to the blocked state when it is waiting for certain resources. Once it gets the resource and performs certain task, again you can unblock it. Okay, you can unblock and resume the thread. Okay, resume the thread. After resuming, again it will go to the ready state waiting for the CPU. In that case, it will resume from the point where it blocked. Okay, and here termination state, some system faults, something happens, the thread can be permanently terminated. Okay, so this was the block diagram showing the different states of a thread. Okay, so ready state, running state, blocked when it is waiting for some resource. After it gets the resource back, again it will go to the ready state waiting for the CPU. Once it gets the CPU, it will start running. Okay, so next topic is thread priorities. Java assigns to each thread a priority that determines how that thread should be treated with respect to the others. So each thread will be having a priority. Okay, this priority is nothing but the integer numbers. Okay, so this priority tells how that thread should be treated with respect to the other threads. Okay, so that is how we are giving priorities for the thread. Thread priorities are integers that specify the relative priority of one thread to another. Okay, priorities are nothing but the integers which specify the relative priority of one thread to another. A thread's priority is used to decide when to switch from one running thread to the next. Okay, so this also, the priority is also used to decide okay, when to switch from one running thread to another, to the next. Okay, this is the case like, suppose now a low priority thread is executing. Okay, a low priority thread is executing by the CPU. Low priority thread gets executed by the CPU. So suddenly a high priority thread comes. High priority thread comes and it is waiting for the CPU. In that case, this low priority thread should be removed from the CPU and the high priority thread should be dispatched to the CPU for execution. Okay, that is what they are telling in this last point. A thread priority is used to decide when to switch from one running thread to the next. Okay, when a low priority thread is running, if an high priority thread comes, in that case the low priority thread will be preempted from the CPU and a high priority thread will be executed. Okay, this was about thread priority. So thread priorities are integers that specify the relative priority of one thread to another. And this task of preempting a low priority thread when a high priority thread comes, this task is called as context switching. Okay, so this task is called as context switching. That is to switch a low priority thread, okay, from one running thread to the next. Okay, that is preempting a low priority thread when a high priority thread comes. Okay, this process is called as context switching. Next, the rules that determine when a context switch takes place. Okay, so the rules for context switching. A thread can voluntarily relinquish control. So when a thread is executing, a high priority thread comes, that time that low priority thread, okay, voluntarily it gives off the CPU control to that high priority thread. Second rule for context switching is that a thread can be preempted by a high priority thread. So when a high priority thread comes, it can forcefully take the control of the CPU from the low priority thread. So these are the two rules of context switching. First rule for context switching is either voluntarily a low priority thread gives the control to the high priority thread. A second rule for context switching is that a thread can be forcibly take control of the CPU from the low priority thread. So a thread can be forcibly preempted. Okay, that is taking the control of the CPU by a high priority thread. So these are the two rules to determine when a context switching can take place. Next topic is synchronization. So Java implements synchronization using a monitor. Okay, so there is a concept called as monitor to implement synchronization in Java. Once a thread enters a monitor, all other threads must wait until that thread exits the monitor. So if one thread enters this monitor, okay, all other threads must wait outside until this particular thread exits the monitor. Once a thread is inside a synchronized method, no other thread can call any other synchronized method on the same objects. Okay, so here monitor is implemented in the form of synchronized method. Okay, so once a thread is inside a synchronized method, no other thread can call any other synchronized method on the same object. So on the same object no other thread can call the same synchronized method. Okay, so that was about synchronization. Next topic is messaging. Java provides a clean, low-cost way for two or more threads to talk to each other through calls to predefined methods that all objects have. Okay, so the objects can communicate among themselves, okay, by calling the predefined methods. Okay, so in this way two or more threads can talk to each other, okay, by calling the predefined methods that all objects have. So by using predefined methods, two or more threads can talk to each other. Java messaging system allows a thread to enter a synchronized method on an object and then wait there until some other thread explicitly notifies it to come out. So the messaging system allows a thread to enter a synchronized method on an object, and it can stay on that synchronized method. Okay, it can wait there until some other thread explicitly notifies it to come out. The thread class and the runnable interface. So in Java there are two ways of creating threads. One is by using the thread class, and one more way is by implementing the runnable interface. Java's multi-threaded system is built upon the thread class, its methods, and its companion interface runnable. Okay, that is how we can implement multi-threading in Java. That is by making use of this thread class and the runnable interface. To create a new thread, our program will either extend the thread class or implement the runnable interface. So in either of these ways, it can create a new thread. So in order to create a new thread in your program, you should either extend the thread class or implement the runnable interface. The thread class defines several methods that help manage threads. So in this thread class, there are several methods, okay, which will help us in managing the threads. So these are these methods. We have all these methods which are predefined inside the thread class: get name, get priority, is alive, join, run, sleep, start. So let us go through each one of them. Get name, it is used to obtain a thread's name. Okay. Get priority, it is used to obtain a thread's priority. If you want, I told you each thread will have a name and it will have a priority. So if you want to obtain a name of the thread, you have to call the get name method. If you want to obtain the priority of the thread, then you have to call the get priority method. Next method is is alive. Okay, this is alive method is used to determine if a thread is still running. Okay, so if you want to know if whether a thread is still executing, you can call this is alive method. Okay, in detail we will be seeing about is alive and join method. Okay, so is alive and join method we will be seeing in detail later, and also we will be using this run method and start, sleep. These methods we will be seeing when we start with the programs. Okay, when we see the examples you will know it. So is alive method, it is used to determine if a thread is still executing. Join method, wait for a thread to terminate. So using this join method, you can wait for a thread to terminate. Run method is the entry point for the thread. Sleep method, suspend a thread for a period of time. So if you want to suspend, we have already discussed about suspend and resume, right? So if you want to suspend a thread for a given time, okay, you can call the sleep method. You want to start a thread by calling its run method. So the start method is used to start the thread. So whenever you call the start method, internally it will call the run method for the thread. Okay, so I want to again clarify between suspend and resume and blocking. Okay, so suspend is to temporarily halt the thread. Okay, temporarily halt the thread. So after that period of time, you can resume it back. Okay, whereas blocking a thread, when will a thread be blocked? When it is waiting for some resource. Okay, so if a thread is waiting for some resource, it will be blocked. Till when it will be blocked? Until it gets the resource, it performs the task. Till then it will be blocked. Okay, so that you should understand. Suspend and resume is nothing but temporarily stopping the thread. Okay, a thread will be blocked when it is waiting for a resource. So now I hope it is clear. Okay, so these are the methods inside the thread class which is used to manage the threads. Next topic, the main thread. Let us see what this main thread is. When a Java program starts up, one thread begins running immediately. Okay, this is usually called the main thread of your program because it is the one that is executed when your program begins. So whenever you start with any program, there is one thread that immediately starts running. Okay, and that thread is called as the main thread. it is the thread from which other child threads will be spawned. Okay, so other child threads will be created from this main thread only. Often it must be the last thread to finish execution because it performs various shutdown actions. So this main thread is the first thread that starts executing. It can create several child threads, and also it must be the last thread to finish execution because it performs various shutdown activities. Okay, like giving back the resources, okay, and all that, various shutdown actions it has to be performed. That is why this main thread also has to be the last thread to finish execution. It has to be the first thread to run, and as well as it has to be the last thread to finish execution. That was about the main thread. Although the main thread is created automatically, when your program is started, it can be controlled through a thread object. So even though the main thread is created automatically when your program is started, you can control it by using the thread object. To do so, we must obtain a reference to it by calling the method current thread, which is a public static member of thread. So to obtain if you want to control the main thread, okay, you can obtain a reference to it by calling this current thread method, okay, which will return a reference of the thread. Okay, and it is a public static member of a thread class. Okay, in the previous slide we have seen only some of the members of the thread class, only few methods. There is one more method called as current thread, okay, which will return the reference of the current execution thread. Okay, so if the main thread is executing currently, then it will return a reference to the main thread by using the current thread method. Okay, current thread method will return the reference of the current executing thread. So if the main thread is executing currently, it will return the reference to the main thread. This is the prototype of the current thread method. Static, okay, return type is thread, current thread. It does not take any parameters. This method returns a reference to the thread in which it is called. Okay, so with respect to which this method is called, then it returns a reference to the thread in which it is called. So let us look at this program here. This is a small example program demonstrating threads. Here we have this class current thread demo. Inside this class we have the main method. Okay, the name of the class is current thread demo. We have defined the main method inside this class. Okay, inside the main method, thread T is equal to, okay, thread T is equal to thread dot current thread. We have already seen in the previous slide, this current thread will return the reference of the thread with respect to which it is called. Okay, so thread dot current thread. Okay, as we saw in the previous slide, here we have used the keyword static, correct? The keyword static in the function prototype tells that this method cannot be called with respect to object reference. Okay, static keyword tells that this method does not belong to the object, it belongs to the class. So you cannot call this current thread method by using the object. Okay, it has to be called with respect to the class only. That is why over here thread is the name of the class. Okay, here thread is the name of the class. So thread dot current thread will return you the reference of the current executing thread. okay, and that is stored in T. Okay, so T is an object representing the main thread. Okay, currently we have not created any threads, we just have the main thread which is executing. So T is representing the main thread. Okay, the reference to this main thread is got by calling the method current thread of the thread class. Okay, next we display the current thread and append it with the value of T. Okay, T will have the main thread details. Okay, next we call T dot set name my thread. So here we are going to change the name of the main thread. We are changing its name to my thread. Okay, so T dot set name method will change the name of the thread to this particular string. Okay, that is, it will change the name to my thread. Next statement you can see, system.out.println after name change. Okay, again you want to display T. So before name changed, you displayed the value of the thread. Okay, once you change the name of the thread, again you want to display the T after name changed. Okay, we have defined the try block here, and then we have the catch block. So in the try block we have the for loop for n is equal to 5 to 0. Okay, sorry, n is equal to 5 to 1. You will display the value of n. So it will display the value over here 5. Okay, and it will put the thread to sleep. The sleep method, okay, will suspend the thread for so many seconds. Okay, so for 1000 milliseconds you are going to put the thread to sleep. Okay, next iteration of the, so here if you see, first it will display 5. The thread will display the value 5. Then it will sleep for 1000 milliseconds. Again iterate with the next iteration of the for loop. N becomes 4. Display the value of n. Display 4. Again you put the thread to sleep for 1000 milliseconds. Again repeat with the next iteration of the for loop. Okay, value of n will become 3. 3 is greater than 0, so display 3. Put the thread to sleep. Repeat with the next iteration of the for loop. Decrement n. N becomes 2. 2 is greater than 0, so display n. Display 2. Put the thread to sleep. Okay, once it wakes up, again continue with the next iteration of the for loop. Decrement n. N becomes 1. 1 is greater than 0. Display 1. Put the thread to sleep. Once it wakes up, again repeat with the next iteration of the for loop. Decrement n. N becomes 0. 0 greater than 0, false. Come out of the for loop. Okay, here if you see, they have written this try block and catch block. When do we write try and catch block in Java? Okay, suppose if there is some possibility of exceptions occurring in your program, in such case statements where an exceptions can occur, such statements you will put it in a try block, and immediately after the try block you should have a catch block to handle that exception. Here when a thread is sleeping, it might get interrupted sometimes. Okay, so suppose if a sleeping thread is interrupted, an exception will be created. Okay, and that case an exception object will be thrown to the catch block, and this catch block will handle this interrupted exception. Okay, telling that the main thread is interrupted. So suppose if the sleeping thread is interrupted, then only an exception will occur over here. Okay, and that exception will be handled. So if no exception occurs, then this catch block will not get executed. So this was about this program. Okay, first we obtained the reference to the main thread. Okay, and that reference to the thread was stored in T. Okay, next we displayed the current thread details. After that we changed the name of the thread to my thread. Again, after changing the name, we display that thread T. Next, using a for loop, we printed the values of n. Okay, the thread was made to print these values. All this task is being performed by the main thread only over here. So the thread will display the value of n, sleep for 1000 milliseconds, repeat with the next iteration of the for loop, display the value of n, again sleep for 1000 milliseconds. Okay, this 1000 milliseconds is used to add some delay. As the thread is printing these values, of n, you want to add some delay in between. That is why you put the thread to sleep. Okay, so let us see how this program executes. Okay, let us see this thread demo program execution. So I have already defined thread demo. Okay, where is thread demo? Yes, it is here. So see this thread demo. Open this program here. No, not this one, not this one. One second. Current thread demo. Sorry, the name of this file is current thread demo. So see current thread demo. Yeah. So let me execute this current thread demo. Okay, see when it is executing, see there is some delay. As it is printing, there is some delay. Slowly it is displaying the values of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Why? Because we had put the thread to sleep for some time. Okay, that is why there is some delay when displaying the value of n. Okay, see it again. 5, there is some delay when displaying the value of n. Okay, and see here, first we displayed the current thread details, correct? Current thread. Okay, so this was the details of the thread. The name of the thread was main. Okay, here the name of the thread is main. The priority of the thread is 5. Okay, by default the thread priority will be 5. Okay, the name of the thread is main. The priority of this thread was 5. Okay, and this thread belongs to the main group. Okay, this is the last factor over here is the group to which the thread belongs. Okay, so it belongs to the group main. So after name changed, you changed the name of the thread to my thread, correct? You didn't change anything else, just you changed the name of the thread. So after name changed, thread, the name of the thread got changed to my thread, but the priority and the group of the thread is same. Priority is 5 and the group is main. So that was about current thread and after name changes. Next you are displaying this value of n with some delay, right? As we are displaying the values of n, see there is some delay because we are putting the thread to sleep for certain time. Okay, so that was about a simple example for running the program. So the argument to sleep specifies the delay period in milliseconds. Okay, so it specifies the delay in milliseconds. So this was the output of the program, right? We already saw this output. So here T displays the name of the thread, its priority and the name of the group. Okay, so when you display T, it will give you, see here, we displayed this value of T, correct? We appended T in this println statement. So that T will display the name of the thread, its priority and the name of the group to which it belongs. Okay, so by default the thread will have the priority 5. Initially the name of the thread was main, but we have changed the name of the thread to my thread. Okay, so this was about the output of the program. So by default the name of the main thread is main. Its priority is 5, which is the default value, and the main is also the name of the group of threads to which this thread belong. So main is also the name of the group to which this thread belongs. A thread group is a data structure that controls the state of a collection of threads as a whole. So thread group is nothing but it is a data structure which controls the group of threads or collection of threads as a whole. We can set the name of the thread by using setName. By default the name of the main thread will be main, but if you wish you can change the name of the thread by using the setName method. We can also obtain the name of the thread by calling getName. By using getName method we can obtain the name of the thread. Next topic, creating threads. Okay, so let us see with an example how to create threads. So basically over here we can create threads either by extending the thread class or by implementing the runnable interface. Okay, we can create threads either by extending the thread class or by implementing the runnable interface. Okay, so first we will see how to create threads by implementing the runnable interface. So we can construct a thread on any object that implements runnable. To implement runnable, a class needs only implement a single method called run, which is declared like this: public void run. Inside run you will define the code that constitutes the new thread. So basically in order to construct a thread, okay, on any object, we can construct a thread on any object that implements runnable. So you need to create a class, okay, and this class has to implement the runnable interface. Okay, and within this class you need to define the run method. Okay, and this is the prototype of the run method. Inside this run method you have to define the code, okay, what that thread is supposed to do. Okay, what task that thread is supposed to do, that you have to define inside the run method. Okay, run establishes the entry point for another concurrent thread of execution within our program. Okay, so basically don't get confused or anything. They are just telling that run is nothing but it is entry point for a new thread to execute. After we create a class that implements runnable, we will instantiate an object of type thread from within that class. Okay, so once we create a class that will implement runnable, we will create an object of type thread within that class. Okay, you will understand it with an example. So the constructor over here is, okay, for creating an object of type thread. Okay, here in the previous slide we told that we can create an object of type thread within the class, correct? So to create an object, the constructor is thread, okay, runnable thread object, string thread name. Okay, so the thread object you have to pass and the name or the string that is representing the thread name you have to pass to this constructor. The thread object is an instance of the class that implements the runnable interface. This defines where the execution of the thread will begin. Okay, here thread object is nothing but it is an object of the class that implements runnable interface. The name of the new thread is specified by the thread name. So when you are creating threads, the name that you specify over here, okay, is nothing but the name of the new thread. After the new thread is created, it will not start running until you call its start method, which is declared within thread. So as soon as you create a thread, it will not start running or executing on its own. If you want the thread to execute, you have to call the start method, okay, which we saw in the thread class, right? So this was about the constructor here. So implementing the runnable interface to create threads. Okay, so after we create a class that implements runnable, we can create an object of type thread from within the class. This is how we can create an object of type thread, or this is how we can create a new thread. Okay, once we have created a new thread, it will not start on its own. Next we have to call the start method for that thread, then only it will start running. Okay, and what happens when you call the start method is, when you start the thread, immediately it will call the run method for that thread. Okay, so as soon as you call start method, the start will call the run method. So let us see this example here. Okay, here you have this class thread1 implements runnable. Okay, I am creating a thread. This is the class which is going to implement the runnable interface, correct? So the class implements runnable. Okay, this is the thread object T. Okay, now this is the constructor for thread1. Here we have defined the constructor for thread1. Okay, now inside this constructor I am creating a new thread. Okay, now this is the object with respect to which a thread is created. We all know this keyword, correct? We all know what is the use of this keyword. What does this tell you? This keyword, it is representing the current object, or it is representing the invoking object, correct? It is representing the current object. Yes or no? So here this is an object representing the thread1 class. Okay, so this represents the invoking or current object. Represents the invoking object. So over here inside thread1, if I am using this keyword this, that means, okay, it represents the thread1 object. That you have to remember. Okay, this is a keyword representing the invoking object. Inside thread1, if I am using this keyword, that this is representing the object of thread1. Okay, so this is an object of the class thread1 that implements runnable interface. Okay, I hope it is clear. Again I will repeat, this is an object, it is representing an object of class thread1 that implements the runnable interface. Okay, so first parameter is an object of the class that implements runnable interface. Second parameter to the constructor is a string representing the thread name. Here we are giving the thread name as demo thread. Okay, and that is object of thread is created and stored in T. Okay, T is of type thread. So over here T is representing the new thread. Okay, T is representing the new child thread that is created. We can display that child thread over here. Okay, child thread, and the value of T is appended. Already you have seen when you display the value of a thread, what will get displayed, correct? Name of the thread, priority, and the group of the thread will be displayed. Okay, so we display that child thread over here. As I already told you, thread, once it is created, it will not run on its own. We have to start the thread. So I call the t.start method to start the thread. When I call t.start method, immediately the control will get transferred to its run method. Okay, immediately the control gets transferred to the run method, and inside the run method, as I have already told you, inside the run method you have to define the actions or the task what that particular thread has to do. Okay, what task that thread has to do, that you have to define inside the run method. Okay, so over here inside the run method we have defined the try block and the catch block, just like the previous example. Okay, we are going to display values from 5 to 1. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, child thread will display the values 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it will display the values 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, when it is displaying each value, it will sleep for 500 milliseconds. Okay, so here between these values you want to add some delay. So when the child thread, first it displays 5, it sleeps for 500 milliseconds. Okay, next it will iterate with the next iteration of the for loop. Okay, I becomes 4, 4 is greater than 0. It will display the value of 4, sleep for 500 milliseconds. This it will repeat till I becomes 0. Once I becomes 0, the for loop fails. Okay, so thread dot sleep of 500, you are adding some delay. Okay, for the thread as it is executing. So the child thread will display the values 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with some delay in between. Okay, so that was about the task what this child thread is doing. So I told you why we have the try block and the catch block over here. Suppose if a sleeping thread is interrupted, then an exception will occur. That exception will be handled by this catch block. Okay, it will handle interrupted exception, child interrupted. Okay, so that was about this try and catch block, and finally you are going to display a statement telling exiting child thread. So at the end of the run method, the child thread will exit or it will stop. Okay, so that was about this program which implements runnable. Let us see the main method for this program. Now in the main method, if you see here, okay, here new thread 1. Initially, which is the first thread that executes when your program starts, main thread will be executing, correct? Main thread will be executing, right? This is the first thread that was executing when your program starts. Okay. Now, when the main thread now here, new thread 1, you are creating an object of the class that implements runnable, correct? Here thread 1 is the class that implements runnable. So whenever you are creating an object of the class that implements runnable, a new thread will be created. So create a new thread. In other words, I am calling this thread 1, new thread 1. Okay, I am calling this constructor thread 1. So this constructor over here again will create a child thread and it will start execution of this child thread. So new thread 1 will make a call to the constructor of thread 1. Inside that thread 1 constructor, what I'm doing, I'm creating a new child thread, okay, and I'm starting the execution of that child thread, right? See here, new thread 1 means over here it will make a call to the constructor of the thread 1 class. Inside this constructor, what you're doing, you're creating a child thread and you are starting that child thread, you are starting its execution. So this child thread will run over here. Okay, this was how the child thread was created. Okay, new thread 1. There you are creating a child thread and you are running it separately. Here what you are doing, try for int I is equal to 0, I greater than 0, I minus minus. Okay, main thread of I. Here you are displaying the values of I. All this task is performed by the main thread. Okay, inside the main method, the main thread is performing the task. Here, whenever you have created an object here, an object of thread 1 class is created, but it is not assigned to any value, correct? New thread 1, okay, will make a call to the constructor of thread 1. In that thread 1 you have created a child thread and that child thread was executing. Simultaneously the main thread over here will continue. Once it calls thread 1, the main thread over here continues. Okay, so over here the child thread and the main thread both are executing simultaneously. Okay, here the main thread is also displaying the values of I, that is 5 to 1 with a delay of 1000 milliseconds. Okay, and over here at the end the main thread will be exiting. Let us see this program. Thread demo. See here, inside thread demo we have the main thread executing, correct? The main thread called the constructor for thread 1. Inside thread 1 a new child thread was created and that child thread is also executing. So inside thread 1 you have the child thread executing, and inside the main method you have this main thread which will create a child thread and it will continue with its execution. Okay, so let us see how this program executes. See here, main thread and child thread both are executing simultaneously, but if you see, the last thread that is exiting is the main thread. Okay, so this is multi-threading, creating two threads. So in this program we have created through two threads. Okay, initially when the program started, okay, the main thread was created by default. Okay, then inside the main method we called thread 1 constructor. When we call that constructor thread 1, inside that constructor we have created a child thread and we are starting the execution of the child thread. Okay, once that constructor call returns, over here the main method, main thread will continue again. Okay, after it has called the constructor, created a new thread and all, the main thread will continue with its execution. So the main thread will also display the values 5 to 1 with 1000 milliseconds delay. Okay, so this was about creating two threads, that is a main thread which is created by default and the child thread. Okay, see here, for executing this this main thread is executing with 1000 delay. Okay, whereas this child thread is just executing with a delay of 500 milliseconds. So it is just having a delay of 500 milliseconds. So the child thread will be executing faster than the main thread over here. Okay, since the main thread is sleeping for 1000 milliseconds. And as usual, always in any program, in any Java program, the main thread will be the last thread to exit. Okay. So see the output here, both are executing, main thread, child thread, both are executing, but the child thread finishes executing fast. Okay, and finally the main thread will exit. So this was about implementing threads. So this was the output. Okay. There in the child thread we displayed the details of the child thread, right? We gave the name as demo thread. By default the priority is 5 and it also belongs to the main group of. Okay, so that was about today's video lecture. Remaining topics I would like to continue in the next video lecture. Thank you.